The bike you ride probably owes more to one race than you can possibly imagine. And it doesn't matter if you have no interest in racing at all, because we have all benefited from the developments rolled out for Paris-Roubaix, the toughest one-day bike race in the world. Road bikes have been shaped by racing from the day they were invented. Racing has fueled this development of bikes to get better, lighter, faster, stiffer. But the hell of the North, well, it shaped bikes in a way that is far more beneficial to us regular cyclists. And the reason? 55 kilometers of the most brutal and punishing cobbles in the world. So in this video, I'm going to explain how bikes have been shaped by this unique race, pick out some notable tech developments, and look at what tech might be on our bikes in the future based on what we've seen in this race this year. Paris-Roubaix is a race shaped by tradition, from the old cobbled roads weaving through a landscape scarred by 2 world wars, to riders choosing equipment capable of surviving the punishment of riding over the brutal cobbles. The cobbles are hard, take my word for it. They break bikes, bodies, dreams and ambitions. And it's why this race has become the most interesting testing ground for new bike tech over the years. Today, the riders will compete aboard bikes made from carbon fibre, many opting for Aero optimised frames with carbon wheels, electronic shifting and disc brakes. This year's winner, for example, Mathieu van der Poel, was aboard a Canyon Aero. It's a bike that doesn't look any different really to the one he normally races. But it wasn't always this way, because in the past we have seen the most outlandish bikes and tech developments put through their paces at this race. Some of these developments have been breakthroughs that have shaped the bicycles we all ride today and very much take for granted. But there have of course been many failures over the years as well. 2 steps forward and 1 back, you might say. While at races like the Tour de France, riders were gradually moving from steel frames from the 70s and 80s to carbon fibre and aero optimised everything in the 2000s. Paris-Roubaix was very much a time capsule. Even just 15 years ago, when I first reported on the race, looking at the bikes being ridden and the equipment being used was like stepping back in time. It was a sea of cyclocross bikes, cantilever brakes and box section aluminium rims. The wire tyres back then were 27mm, measly by today's standards, but massive compared to the regular 23mm tyres being used back then. Yet most road race bikes of the day could not handle a tyre this wide, hence a switch to a CX bike, or especially modified road bikes like the famous Cervelo R3 Mud. This led to the development of the endurance bike. Introduced at the turn of the century as sporty bikes, it was at Paris-Roubaix that these bikes really got an injection of tech development. Frames were developed to flex and suspend the rider to give a smooth ride over the cobbles and reduce fatigue. The geometry was longer and slacker to calm down the handling on the rough cobbles. And disc brakes were being used to allow even bigger tyre clearance than before. Now we started seeing 28, 30 and even 32mm wide tyres being ridden over the cobbles for the first time. What a difference they must have made. And we all benefited. Endurance bikes became the fastest selling and biggest category of road bikes over the last 15 years. And it's largely thanks to the development and exposure from this one-day race. Nowhere is race on Sunday, sell on Monday more true than in this case. And it's because these bikes actually suited and matched the riding many of us cyclists were doing. We like riding fast, but don't need the aggressive geometry and high stiffness of a race bike. Endurance bikes were far better suited, a bit more forgiving, a bit more laid back, wide tyres, disc brakes with more control. They really matched the riding aspirations of us enthusiast cyclists. The most famous of these bikes is the one named after this race, the Specialized Roubaix. It first emerged with rubber inserts in the fork and rear stays to give a smoother and more comfortable ride on the cobbles. It soon morphed into the bike we know today with a feature shock at the front and a lighter and more aero optimized frame. And my goodness, has it been a successful bike for the company, not just in sales, but in race success. Tom Bonan, Peter Sagan, Philippe Gilbert, Fabien Cancellara have all been victorious on the cobbles aboard this very bike. So endurance bikes are the best thing to come out of this race for us regular cyclists. But in more recent years, we've seen the use of endurance bikes actually decrease as manufacturers have begun designing race bikes that would take a wide tyre. So today's crop of race bikes will easily take a 30 or 32mm wide tyre, which is more than enough for Paris-Roubaix. And why we see the likes of the Specialized Tarmac, the giant TCR Advance, and even the Canyon Aero being used at this race. And thanks to improvements in comfort and tyre clearance, even Aero bikes have been used in this race. In 2016, Matt Hayman shocked the world when he rode a victory on a Scott foil Aero bike with 28mm wide tyres. And Aero is increasingly important in a race that features, let us not forget, 200 kilometers of mostly flat and smooth roads. This year's edition was the fastest race in history, and Mathieu van der Poel won aboard a very normal looking Canyon Aero. No real difference to a normal setup other than wider tyres. This would have been unthinkable 15 years ago, but here we are, a normal Aero bike with wide tyres dominating the toughest race in the world. And that really shows the development of the bikes, wheels and tyres to enable these riders to race normal bikes over roads that once required very special equipment. That doesn't mean that manufacturers and riders aren't still pushing for tech developments and marginal gains in this race. This year, the tech advancements continue. Jumbo-Visma and Team DSM were using adjustable tyre pressure systems that can increase or decrease the tyre pressure on the fly. With a race that features just 55 kilometers of cobbles alongside 200 kilometers of relatively smooth tarmac, being able to optimize tyre pressure for a different parcours has an obvious benefit. High pressure on the road, low pressure on the cobbles. But will this be a game-changing product that finds its way onto our bikes in the future, or just another one that joins a long list of failures in this race? Also making another return to this race were 1x drivetrains. Now we've seen various attempts to replace the conventional 2x chain set with a single ring setup at this race before. Lizzie Deignan most famously won the women's race about 2 years ago on a Trek Domani SLR with a SRAM red Axis 1x setup, so we know it works. And this year, the most high profile rider on a 1x setup was Wout van Aert riding a SRAM red 1x group set, pairing a 54 tooth chainring with a 1026 cassette. Sadly, he got a puncture and wasn't able to contend the victory in the Roubaix Velodrome, but up to that point, the 1x group set didn't seem to be holding him back. So I think it's fair to say that this one-day race has helped push the development of the bikes we all get to enjoy riding today more than any other race. I don't doubt that bikes would still have progressed if this race didn't exist, but it's clear it definitely helped shape the modern race bike, and for that reason we should all be thankful this race exists, not just for the amazing sporting spectacle it provides, but the way it helps shape bikes that we all take for granted. And if you want to see a video of the best endurance bikes currently available and shaped by Paris-Roubaix, then watch this video right up here. And don't forget to subscribe if you've enjoyed the video by hitting the button right here. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon.